And this is going to allow the property owner to bring land into use that otherwise is landlocked and would just sit there.
City abandoned George Street, correct?
City
That
abandoned
section of it?
George Street to them, I guess this past spring.
So by granting the variance, this lets us bring some land back onto the tax rolls that have been burdened for 15, 20 years.
Yep.
Or more.
Makes sense. Okay.
And if they add on to their building, they can kind of keep that same footprint.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the variance.
I second that.
Do we have to open it up for a public hearing or anything like that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Does anybody wish to address the commission on this particular issue? No? All right, great, great. Then, any comments from the commission? No. All right, then, who was it? Vic, you did?
Vic,
Vic made a motion to approve, I guess we approved the variance first.
Right, you'll have two motions. You'll approve the variance, and if that's
Plat.
approved, then you'll approve the final plat.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to approve the variance.
Yes. Seconded by Omar.
Omar seconded it. All in favor?
aye.
No nays? Okay, so the variance passes. Next thing, we vote on final plat approval? Okay, do I have a motion for final plat approval? Ms. Wyatt?
I'll second.
Vic seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the final plat is approved.
Next on the agenda is a variance to the sign ordinance. This variance is to section 5-149A-B2, which allows a billboard to have a maximum height of 35 feet when located within 100 feet of a primary arterial. The location of this is at 1612 Northeast Zach Lentz Parkway, 2500Z Lanningham, Abstract 250, Track 25C. The subject property consists of 8.303 acres. The property is located near the intersection of Northeast Zach Lentz Parkway and East Airline Road. The owner wishes to apply for a variance to construct a 50-foot tall billboard instead of the 35-foot maximum height allowable by the City of Victoria Code of Ordinances. The City of Victoria Code of Ordinances, Section 5-149A-B2, allows a maximum billboard height of 35 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a 50-foot billboard instead of the maximum allowable of 35 feet. The applicant feels that with the completion of the Airline Road overpass, the guardrail height will obstruct the view of a billboard that is only 35 feet tall. For this reason, the applicant wishes for the overall height of their billboard to be 50 feet. The Code and Ordinances at this time takes into consideration the height of roadways when setting the maximum allowable height for billboards. Billboards constructed on non-arterial roads can only have a maximum height of 25 feet. The proposed billboard is not located at the crest of the overpass where Zach Lentz Parkway is the highest and would cause the largest obstruction of vision. Currently, the tallest billboard located on Zach Lentz Parkway, Loop 463, and approved by a variance within the City of Victoria is 47 feet. This billboard is located near the crest of the overpass, which can reduce visibility for portions of the roadway. This billboard was constructed by Lamar Outdoor Advertising upon approval of a variance in February 2013. Staff did not support the variance request, and neither did the Planning Commission. However, Lamar appealed and City Council overturned their denial. The applicant has an existing billboard permit for this location for a billboard proposed to be 35 feet that was issued on August 19th, 2015, and expires on August 19th, 2016. Staff does not recommend approval of this variance as the height requirement set out in the City of Victoria Code of Ordinances does not appear to hinder the visibility of this billboard. If approved, this sign would be one of the tallest in the city. Staff does not believe there to be a visibility issue at the proposed site. Furthermore, it is not consistent with the goals and objectives identified in Chapter 11, Community Image of the Victoria 2025 Comprehensive Plan. For variances to the sign ordinance, they must only state what circumstances show that literal enforcement of provisions will result in an unnecessary and extraordinary hardship and do not follow the same requirements that a subdivision ordinance variance would. On this slide, you can see that the highest point of the overpass at Airline Road is 124 feet above sea level. At the location the billboard will be going, the total height of a permitted and non-variance sign will be approximately 130 feet above sea level. The sign requested that would need a variance would have a total height of 150 feet above sea level. Due to the height of a permitted sign being 6 feet taller than the overpass, staff does not feel that the extra height is necessary for the sign to be visible. And this picture is taken from the crest of the airline overpass. If you'll note the trailers on the left side of the picture, those are the buildings that are directly in front of this, the location. And this shows the relation of where the billboard will go. Based on these, staff does not recommend approval of this variance.
I got a question. Go ahead.
Go ahead, no, you,
How tall is the billboard over Uncle Mutt's? Is it over 35 feet?
It is over 35 feet. I don't know the exact height. That's why we said this is one of the
What, will that
tallest.
exact length?
I think that's one of the tallest in town, as far as I know.
Probably so. There's a tall one.
It's the 47-foot one.
There's a,
No, he's talking about the one at Uncle Mutt's on
the one in Uncle
Oh,
Mutt's,
at
and then there's
Uncle
one
Mutt's.
over
Oh.
across from H-E-B Rio Grande that's fairly large.
So,
I don't know the exact height of those, sir.
but we have the 35-foot.
Since those were constructed, the 35-foot height has been put in place. It was put in place in 2001, 2002.
They feel this will affect just the readability.
The applicant is in the audience, and I think I'll
I'm
defer
just
to him.
asking, that was the reason for the application, for the readability.
Sure. Their application indicates that the visibility of the billboard will be limited at the
Denied a
35-foot height.
variance last month, but the city council approved just purely for readability, for a private sign. Yes?
I don't know if that was their exact reasoning for that, but
That's what they, yeah, it was purely for readability of that sign. That's why I'm kind of curious. Here we are again. This is the public sign, this is a billboard,
this is a
but it's purely
billboard.
for readability purposes. The sign's much taller than this in Victoria.
And that's why the comprehensive plan talked about limiting the proliferation of billboards and reducing their height and all those flowery words that are in Chapter 11 of the comprehensive plan. And so that's why we are here where we are today with the staff recommendation that is for denial, which
Can
is
you go-
consistent with our denial in February 2013.
Can you go back through the reasons for denial that you're recommending not?
The reasons for denial? Okay. So, let me see. The reason why is, oh, sorry. On this one, so at the actual crest of the overpass, it is 124 feet, so that would be 124 feet above sea level. That would be where you are driving in the lane. That's how high you would be. For the sign that they're requesting, it'll be approximately, the highest point of that sign would be 150 feet above sea level. So 26 feet of clearance between where you would be at the crest of the overpass to where the tallest part of that sign would be. For a permitted sign does not require a variance, that would be 130 feet above sea level. So you would have, if with a permitted sign that does not require a variance, you would be 6 feet above where you'd be on the overpass crest.
So you can still see the billboard when you're at the crest.
You still see the billboard in its entirety?
Yes. As you
And
can
this
see on the-
picture is from the highest.
Yeah, this is from the highest point. You can see the tops of the trailers that are part of that storage facility. Just behind that is where the billboard would be located, and if you can see the tops of those trailers, which are significantly less than 35 feet tall.
the back one, yeah.
So those are the tops of trailers, and I guess there's a few storage buildings out there.
Is that for right-hand or left-hand read?
Well, this
Southbound.
is,
That's southbound.
this is south,
That's southbound.
Their petition is mainly because of southbound.
Yeah, northbound.
the other
there's no
bound, the other way,
obstruction.
the other
Yeah,
direction
northbound
is
is
not an
flat.
issue.
Yeah. Jared, can you refresh our memory on the original, and I was just looking here on the original permit. Do you remember where on the lot they're planning on?
There's a
or
little,
Desiring to place the sign?
there's a little on this picture. It's kind of hard to see, but it's in the,
So
I
the
guess-
the northwest corner.
yeah, northwest corner.
Yeah, right at the tip of that arrow, you can see the,
Yeah,
So if they moved it to the southwest corner, or the south, yeah,
south, yeah.
then,
And the obstruction would be less, huh?
yeah, you'd have even a clearer view.
Well, Okay.
And,
Mr.
you know, that they are talking about, this is only for southbound traffic. This is, I was looking at the permit request, it's a two-faced sign. So northbound traffic isn't gonna have any problem at all seeing this sign. And the other thing that kind of stuck in my mind, just for conversation's sake, is, you know, the application was made well after the announcement from Department of Transportation that they were gonna put an overpass in there. So the applicant knew that there was gonna be an overpass going in place at the time that they applied.
I have a question regarding the application. Would they have to get a new application if the variance is approved?
No, the variance is approved, we can go back in and amend their existing application, their existing permit. Now, they can choose to if for timing purposes, they could let the existing one expire and build a new one. It'd be up to them, I guess, let me put it that way. We could amend it, or they could come in and pull a new one that would restart the one-year clock for installation.
And when the application was submitted, I'm assuming they submitted the variance request at the same time?
No,
Not with
Okay.
not with the initial one.
The initial permit was approved.
That was just in
Submitted for 35
August.
feet within the guidelines.
August of 2015.
Yes.
Right.
I just assumed-
That's
Couple
last
months
month.
ago.
So the elevated part of the road was absolutely, present when they applied for the
I know
permit.
Mr. Middleton. Does anybody have more questions from?
In other municipalities, do they have different height requirements when there's freeways or there's overpasses that are given exceptional? I know I was just at the office in Highway 90 the other day, and a guy's actually trying to get a billboard, and there's just gonna be above the overpass, significantly higher for readability. This was in Missouri City. I'm just curious in other municipalities that you visit with, do they have different height requirements when there are overpasses, elevated roadways and what have you, that are addressed differently than ones that are just on the main thoroughfares where there's flat ground? I say sea level, I look at ground level, not sea level.
Yeah. I'm sure there are. Unfortunately, most of our peer cities flat out don't allow new billboards. So, which we still do. So I don't know the specifics of what another city does, but if you're saying Missouri City
Yeah,
is
they were
allowing
getting
it,
ready to put one in.
then
guys at
that would
Highway
be
90
that would be a
and
city
what have
that
you.
is.
And they were putting a billboard in, one of my peers in business. And it's gonna be way up there so it can get readability from the overpass folks on Highway 90 as well.
Sure.
And I was just curious if there's other cities that do that. I know we got our first overpass in Victoria a few years ago, not say a few years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And it's something that may need to be addressed in the future as far as readability for those types
The
of.
timing of when the ordinance was revised in 2001, that Navarro-Zacklin's interchange had already been constructed. The ordinance was tweaked to assist freestanding on-premise signs to adjust their height for when they're on an elevated roadway, but they specifically did not.
What are TxDOT's requirements on it?
Yeah, that's it. We talked about this in
This-
the
this-
last time around.
What are TxDOT's requirements? Do we supersede them?
Yes, because I want to forget the terminology. We're a home rule city, but we've entered an agreement with TxDOT where we're going to regulate and our rules will apply.
In the city limits.
What are
within the
TxDOT's
city.
What would
requirements?
They
They would allow higher than 35 foot, but they require greater spacing. I don't remember the exact.
Let us
Hi.
hear from the applicant, if you don't mind. Can we, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, would you care to?
So the reason is that in this particular.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Mr. Middleton, for the record, we need your name and.
Garrett Middleton, P.O. Box 3893, Victoria, Texas. So in this particular instance, TxDOT, their requirements on a billboard like this are 42 foot above road grade. So at this particular instance, the sign could theoretically be 65, 70 foot tall. It has to be 42 feet above, perpendicular where the roadway is. The reason for this request is not because at the crest you can see it. It's that the roadway itself, upon completion, let me back up a little bit. We originally pulled this a year ago. We renewed the permit because we wanted to see how tall the actual, visibility would be on the overpass. It's not at the crest that you can't see it. It's the going up to the crest. as you're going on the incline, the sign is completely blocked by the actual roadway itself.
That's a half a mile away, sir.
Yes, sir, but that's what I'm saying. As you go up, the 15-foot, as you go up on the slope, it would allow you to be right above the guardrails on the other side. In a lower vehicle, like a car, as an example, you can't see over it. Yes, at the crest, that's when you can, but what we're asking is that you'd be able to read it going up the crest, basically, not at the pinnacle of the sign.
So from
Move
north,
it further back on the property, maybe?
No, sir, if we moved it further towards Business 59, it would actually decrease the visibility even more.
so
And
help me understand. So what your concern is that when you're north of Airline on the southbound lane, the overpass gets in the way of seeing your
Yes, sir, that's correct.
billboard at 35 feet.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You're not worried about from the crest of the overpass and coming down off the overpass?
That's correct. At the crest is whenever you can start to see it. That is correct. Whenever you're going up on the incline.
The low point.
No, I understand. They're wanting to see it from as far up on the southbound lane of Zach Lentz as they can. That I understand. That's what I'm trying to.
If you're paying for that side of that billboard, you would want it to be read as long as possible.
Yes, sir. And so that's the reason for the variance. Again, we're, the precedent of, the original sign that Lamar built is the same kind of deal, except theirs was at the pinnacle. Ours is the readability going towards the sign to where, an advertiser, you could read their message, not just right as you get to the top and then you approach. It makes the read longer.
So Garrett, you said something that a year ago, I guess y'all started this process and you renewed it in August of this year?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We just wanted to see what it would really look like, because it's easy to think about it, but until the overpass was completed, we didn't know what it was going to look like. And now, the tops of those, the telephone poles are approximately 35 feet, and you can't see those, going up the overpass.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, sir. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Garrett, answer a question for me. So I heard half a mile. Are you talking about a half a mile?
No, ma'am. I never said that. That's what
Well, I
Mr.
heard
Caldwell
that
said.
conversation over here, but could you clarify how far that lower end is from your sign? Would you say a quarter of a mile?
Yeah, I would say about that. I would say roughly anywhere between 2,000 to 1,500 feet. And so as you're, driving 55 miles an hour, that's, 20 seconds or 15 seconds. And so that's where you could see it, you wouldn't be able to read it before you got to the overpass. And then as you hit the grade of the overpass, you basically completely lose it. And then until you get to the peak, then you're able to actually view the signboard in its entirety.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am. And so, we're just asking for a little bit higher. The area is industrial. It's not around any neighborhoods or any residential. It's across the street from a golf course. There's not anything there that would, aside from vehicular traffic. No, it's just a static sign.
If the variance is denied, you still intend to put the sign up?
Well, I'm going to city council I would appeal the decision.
If the variance is denied even by city council, you still plan on putting the sign up?
That's a question that I don't think that I can answer realistically. Again, for me, from an economic standpoint, if I can't sell both sides, then it doesn't make sense. That's my business. And so I'm going to, basically follow all routes I can to try to build my sign.
Jared, if our height limitation was to be consistent with the state, with TxDOT, would that be acceptable?
Yes, it would be. It would actually be below state regulations.
Acceptable of what?
It's a lot higher.
higher.
It would be a lot higher.
Significantly higher. It's almost twice the height.
So this
Yes, sir.
would be still within the
Within the
acceptable?
state guidelines, I
Okay.
believe.
Yes, sir, it'd be way below them.
Chair, you may have alluded to this. Why did we go the 35 feet in lieu of the TxDOT?
That was the comprehensive plan was in development. That's been a long time for me to try to go back and remember. But Mr. Middleton was mayor when that was going on. Ms. Shirley Booker was sitting right where you are. And she made those motions to reduce the height of the billboards on all the other city streets, the local and collectors, down to 25 foot. And along with, I guess, a majority of the rest of council was able to keep the rest of the billboards at 35 foot, regardless of whether or not there was an overpass. We do have had overpasses on Business 59 for 40 years or more. Of course,
They probably
one-
didn't envision an overpass on Zach Lane's Park.
right, right. You know, I understand the reasoning for it, but if it were me, I knew that overpass was coming, and I know the city rules. I would look for a location somewhere else where it didn't require variance. And with the sign ordinance, you don't have to answer whether or not the condition is self-imposed like we do with the subdivision variance. So, but it does beg the question of why here when you clearly knew that it wasn't going to meet city codes. You're trying to force the city into approving something that you knew from the get-go was beyond the limits of what the city code allows.
I think that, a fundamental question is that, based on the city code, if I had an option to go somewhere better, I would. Although, I mean, I do business all over Victoria, and unfortunately, there are not any other options on Zach Lane's Parkway where I could find a lease. This is one of the only locations, and it will probably be the last location out here, based on property ownership, as well as, Victoria doesn't have zoning, but at the same time, there's not very many other locations inside the city limits. Inside the ETJ as well, the problem is that if you go further out, the economics of the sign don't really make sense based on cost. And so
Question for Mr. Middleton. I know there's some competitor signs that are on that same thoroughfare. What is the heights of those signs? Are they over 35?
they're 35 feet,
They're
but there's no
35.
overpass right there.
All of them?
The only
There's
one,
two.
yeah, the only one that's over 35 is the one that's 47 foot that was put in over by Holy Family in front of the Social Security office in
Which was-
2013.
Which was voted by a variance that was approved.
About the ones by Rinkin's Nursery and all those?
Those should all be 35 foot.
There's two. There's just no need to raise them because there's no overpass there. There's no constructual, hindrance of visibility.
If this were an on-premise sign, how high would it be allowed to be?
It would be allowed to be up to 50 feet tall,
So if it
based
were-
on
if it were a
the
business putting their-
actual elevation of the roadway at that specific point, not on the crest.
Right. So if this were a business wanting to put a sign up, they could go 50 foot.
They could go up to
But
50
be-
feet. I don't know that they could have 50 feet there because you're already going back down.
Right,
So
but because this is a
because this is a billboard, it's-
advertising source of revenue for the company that's putting it there, it falls as a billboard, so it's 35.
because it's off premise, it doesn't matter about
So
revenue.
it's not advertising a business that's on this property.
Right.
And to go back to what I was alluding to last month, this is just purely for readability purposes. Bottom line.
Be able to sell advertising.
Well, it's for readability
Yes,
of
ma'am.
the
And again,
sign.
I mean, everything that we do in the outdoor business literally drives sales tax here in the community. I mean, that's kind of what, we pay property taxes on our billboards, just like landowners pay property taxes. And so, I mean, again, the whole reason is that, yes, at the crest you can read it, but that's not the reason for the variance. The hardship, I guess, is that you can't read it as you're approaching, which hinders the sellability of the billboard. And we're within, way below the state regulations of what they would allow. Typically, it's 42 and a half feet above the road grade is what the state law allows currently in Texas.
The state doesn't have to live where there's billboards all over the place at 50 feet and plus.
State?
State lives in Austin where there's kind of a
There-
prohibition
Yes, sir,
against
there are
them.
hundreds,
State
they're
lives in
100
Austin where
feet
there aren't any
tall.
billboards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
At all.
state lives in Houston where there aren't any billboards higher than 30 feet, so, yeah,
Houston doesn't allow additional billboards either.
right.
Yes, sir. If there's any other questions I can ask or answer.
Anybody have anything else for Mr. Middleton?
Oh,
Thank you.
And I guess I'm new, but the only thing I'd throw out that just, I have a question about is in terms of if we have a comprehensive plan, which we have adopted, doesn't it behoove us to attempt to meet the spirit of that comprehensive plan? When there's not a real overwhelming need to do something different?
The thing is, the comprehensive plan is not adopted by ordinance. It's not law per se. It's
No, but it's something that this community has adopted to try to make everything look better in the community in a long-range type plan.
final point is that if they're going to residential, allowing.
I'm sorry. We want to if we want to open it up to,
Open it for citizen communication first.
anybody else want to address the commission? Okay, great. Now we'll open it up for our discussion. Ms. Wyatt, you want to add anything
No, I mean,
else?
to me, that's a legitimate concern. I mean, like I said, I'm new, so I don't know how y'all address
That's how I
addressed
feel
that
with
in the past.
Well, that's the reason for the variance. I mean, that's the reason for the opportunity to ask for the variance. But I
If
think,
it's necessary.
To me, it makes no sense that a business, as Vic indicated, that they can put a sign that is 50 feet high, but not a standalone sign, billboard that falls into the billboard qualifications, if you will. To me, that doesn't make any sense from that
Contradicts
aspect.
itself. Kind of contradicts itself. Yeah.
Because here's, even if he puts it at 35, okay, and then you're gonna have a business there, and if they put it at the same height, then they're not gonna be able to see his billboard either if he complies.
Well, the same will be said, because the freestanding sign can be 50 feet.
Well, I understand that.
We have that all over Navarro where signs block each other and,
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, my thing is having driven it, and I can understand Mr. Middleton's point with you lose sight of it as you come up to the overpass. 35 or 50, I'm not going to look at that. If I'm driving properly, I'm not going to be looking at a sign that's 60 feet, no, sorry, 80 feet on the other side of the road, 3/10 of a mile up the road when I'm driving it, and when the new speed limit goes in on the loop, when I'm driving at 65 miles an hour, I should be looking this way, not worrying about a sign that I can't see until I get to the crest of it.
but people look at billboards,
I
that's why
understand.
they have a right-hand reader and left-hand reader.
Right,
When they look up from their phones.
yeah, right, well, that's a different story. You know, my thing with it is that you can still see it, it's unobstructed, it's only obstructed when you're coming up to the overpass. I think it's asking an awful lot to expect, you know, if the request were, let's put it at 90 feet so that we can see it 2 miles down the road and make it twice the size. To me, it's the same kind of argument. He wants maximum visibility down the road. Well, maximum visibility, well, why not let's put a request in for a 90-foot sign and make it twice as big so that you can see it all the way down at Salem Road.
Yeah, but there is some reasonable requests and there are unreasonable requests. So, you know,
Let's look at, I'm just going to throw this out. Mr. Middleton already alluded to the fact, if we turn it down, he's going to appeal it to city council. City council's already approved one of these previously. So,
Well,
Well,
that was
they did.
that was a previous council, and 3 of those members that voted in favor of that are no longer on council. If you're talking about the one that's over on.
well, that's a
Oversight.
really, and to me, that's a regardless, I think, because one of the things you need to look at is that if we actually adopted a sign ordinance that mirrors that of TxDOT, then we would be okay. And if we were to adopt something similar to what we allow a business sign, then that would have been okay.
Well, but Omar, that's like saying if we adopted the same ordinances that they had in Austin, we
No, I'm
wouldn't even
I'm
be
not
having it.
comparing Austin, I'm comparing Victoria as a whole.
Well, no, I understand, but you're saying that if we adopted TxDOT's guidelines, well, we could adopt Houston's guidelines, or we could adopt Austin's
Okay,
guidelines.
well,
And
discard
we wouldn't
that-
even be having this discussion
Discard
because.
that TxDOT and look at the business sign. If it was a business sign, then that would have been okay.
Yes.
This is within our code, this is the city, I'm not comparing anybody else
Right,
to
but
it.
this isn't a business sign, this is a
Okay.
billboard that somebody else is gonna make money for, not the business that's there.
The business that's advertising on it that's the purpose of the sign.
maybe this would be one of
That's
these
why, I mean,
situations.
I've got a billboard on my property for that very reason. of the effectiveness of that form of advertising. So you want the readability, you don't want one that's not gonna be readable. I mean, it affects the price for the sign and what have you, I mean, the functionality of it, the whole purpose of it.
And along the highway and freeway, you always see these very massive billboards, I mean, everywhere.
Yeah, but this isn't a highway, this isn't a freeway.
It is a freeway. It's
I mean-
considered a freeway.
Yeah, and what are you gonna do when there's residential built on the other side of the road, like there's already been plans
The
for?
free, on the freeway itself, it's a freeway. So you basically constructing
Yep.
on that side of the freeway.
You have already have residential on the other side towards the high school and what have you, on the loop there. I see it as, that's a future freeway section that,
I mean, well, okay.
Go
No, it's,
ahead.
it's, in a-
I'm just, my thought is, this is gonna be the second time it's come up. Maybe the council will say, look, this needs to be revisited.
Well, but the history on that too was the planning commission did months and months of research and work to put that into the comprehensive plan. Didn't want it to happen when the city council did approve it. There was a lot of disappointment.
I remember that.
and I remember
was
that,
there,
those discussions, that signage were on thoroughfares within the city. Like I said, the one at Uncle Mutt's, that's way up there. But those were on thoroughfares within the city. I guess I say within the city. This is actually within the city, but this is gonna be more of a freeway type environment versus Navarro. Which sometimes Navarro seems like a freeway environment. But, and I see where it being more of a text dot regulated, if you will, area, same as 59 out on, not 59 Business, but actually out on 59. That is, we have to me, I think we should look at text dot regulations as a driving force along these freeway type interchanges that we're now having more and more of within the scope of Victoria.
Well, from my memory, our billboard industry did not want us to follow text dot regulations. Their distances between billboards are far greater than ours, so.
The distances are greater,
it's-
but the height's
We're cherry
better.
picking, let's take the height from text dot and let's take our local amendment that allows billboards to be
If I
every
remember-
few hundred
if I
feet
remember
instead
correctly,
of
that
1,000
conversation
feet
was,
apart.
we'd rather have them closer and lower than higher and further
Right.
apart,
Further
because we
apart.
can sell more of them closer
The
and
opinions
lower.
on this are obviously, really varied. It was a very contentious vote when the 47-foot billboard was approved. It was a 4-3 split. Yeah, several of those council members are no longer on council, and staff has never received instruction to go back and, or neither has planning commission to go back and revise the billboard ordinance to make it, the sign ordinance to make billboards and freestanding business signs equal. It was a deliberate choice by the city council in 2001 to mark a distinction between billboards and business
Business
signs.
signs. I remember that
It was
too.
deliberate. You may not agree with it, that's okay, but it was deliberate and it was done that way on purpose.
Well,
And that
And I'm
was,
gonna go
that was
back
the
to the precedence
sentiment
that was
of
set for
the
a-
hundreds of people that were involved in the comprehensive plan.
The
Of course, we're-
precedence that was set for a privately owned sign last month, that we denied a variance here purely for readability purposes. City council
That's that
approved it.
case,
The
this
city
is
council
this.
appro- That was, the man sat up here and told us that's why he wanted it up close to the street, was purely for readability.
I understand, but
Only
you have to
that.
look at each of
And
these
then city council
individually.
overturned that, so that leads me to believe that city council will go, okay, readability is a driving force for a sign.
But the code states, I mean, we're not here to judge what council's gonna
Anticipate,
do and anticipate. The code states what the code
Yes, I get
states.
that.
Well, the thing is,
And-
I don't think we should base a decision based on what we think the council
Right.
is or isn't
Right.
gonna do, or
That's what
whether or
I'm
not
saying.
it's gonna be
Maybe you're right.
appealed. I mean, it's
Exactly.
our job to enforce what is in place unless we feel there's an overwhelming reason to grant a variance. And, what the council does is what the council does. Until they choose
And,
to change
you know,
the rule.
We've got a community plan. And no, it's not code, as Mr. Middleton mentioned, but it is a vision. It is a vision that the community has put forward of where they want to see this community progress towards. And if we don't at least use that as kind of our guideline for how we move forward on things, then we're never going to attain the vision. We're never going to be able to have the kind of community that our community has said this is what they want. And so you know, with that regard, I think we have to adhere to the code, and we use that vision as a guideline. There's no hardship created here. It's not like there's an existing sign. You know, Mr. Middleton states that this is really the only place he can do it. Well, free market economy, if he's willing to spend enough money, I bet he could find somebody along that stretch that would lease him space. This just happens to be the most advantageous for his business to get a lease, because he's got a company or an owner of that property that's willing to lease it at what Mr. Middleton's willing to pay. That's free market, and that's great, and I'm all for free market. If he can't put a sign or chooses not to put a sign here, and he wouldn't say, if this variance gets declined, is he still going to build the sign or not? Even if city council denies it, he wouldn't say whether he's going to build the sign or not. I would put forward, he's going to build the sign, or else why would he be applied for the permit, and why would he be applied for an extension? But the code states 35 feet.
Well, it's not code, and in the 2025 plan, this is what I found interesting. There's only 3 paragraphs. Quote me if I'm wrong, three and a half paragraphs that even addresses billboards in that 2025 plan. The rest of that plan also addresses promoting business and promoting the economics of Victoria in parks and this and that. There's only just a couple of paragraphs regarding billboards. They take a lot of bad press, if you will, but a lot of that plan is promoting business and economics of this city as well, in conjunction with those paragraphs. And looking at the economics of the man that's trying to invest in that location, trying to get the most bang for the buck for the people that will spend money on that sign, I can see the economic value of that sign. A few extra feet, giving it better readability, as someone that has, I purchased that stuff. Because, and that's the first thing I look at, is the readability of that sign. So I can see we're promoting the economics of that sign, that's going to promote a business in Victoria that's going to pay taxes and promote the economy of the Victoria. Then I have to weigh both. Does that make sense?
But you're not proposing that nobody's going to buy any time on this sign on the southbound side because it's at 35 feet. They
If
can't
it
see it
affects
until
the
they crest it.
readability as a business owner, I would look at one side or the other and maybe say, well, it's not worth it, I'll find someplace else.
It's fine, but there are going to be,
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I look at, is the economics of it as well. Not just 2.5, 3 paragraphs in the 2025, fix to be the 2035 plan. We address this as a commission and council as this is the only thing in that plan. It's not. If you actually read it and look at it, there's not but about 2.5 paragraphs
Mr.
to
Chairman,
this big gorilla or elephant in the corner of the room that we always bring up and fight. So,
Anybody else have anything they want to add?
I just would like to go ahead and if I can, make a motion to accept the variance as presented.
second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Rashid and a second by Mr. Woods to accept the variance. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
aye, nay.
Hey,
Hey,
Can we,
So,
Lila,
We
did
do
you
a show of
get that?
hands, maybe,
we need to do
Mr.
okay,
hands.
show of hands, we have
nay.
1,
Hey.
2.
For nay?
Nay.
Renee.
For nay?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Got it.
5 to 2. So the variance is denied. Want to go on ahead?
Okay, the next item on your agenda is the monthly development services monthly development report. See the 2 minor plats that came in last month, along with major plats, one of which is already discussed. And you see the site plans that our site plan activities really started to pick up. Our Compass Tree table was full of plans that came in the last couple of weeks that aren't even on here. So commercial activity has started to pick back up, at least from the plan standpoint. Don't have any questions there. Moving on to the permit activity, continue to see a fairly stable or steady new residential construction with 14 homes. See there, no new commercial. That feels like that's about to change. And $64 million in construction for the fiscal year. Happy to take any questions.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Not related to this, but related to this. When the permit process was being gone through for where the Chipotle and the, what's the other business that's gonna be in there?
Mattress
Yeah,
One.
Mattress store. Did we know that it was gonna be a restaurant in there at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
It meets the minimum requirements.
I had a question we were debating earlier about, I guess at the city council deliberations about the signs for the Lutheran church. There was a language about 90-day moratorium, and can you expand upon that and kind of explain it in layman terms?
Sure. That actually failed and did not pass, but there were a couple of different motions there to attach to the approval of the variance a 90-day moratorium, which would have not allowed staff to issue any digital permits within the historic districts. My understanding is they're going to bring that discussion will come back at their October 6th meeting, and they may at that time choose to act on that moratorium or not. There's a larger sign discussion that the mayor is planning to bring at that meeting as well. So, but they did, it was a split vote, 5-2, and to approve the variance for the church sign. So, but there was an effort to allow that one in the door and then close the door behind it. So, and there were, through the series of votes, there were 4 votes to have done that, but they just didn't all line up with the other conditions. So, if those 4 votes hold, then we'll probably have a moratorium in a couple of weeks. We'll see.
But just to be clear, that was done strictly for the readability of that sign. The man stood here and said that. That was the only reason they wanted the variance, was for readability, because of the setback from the church. And we put a lot of discussion into that, and we denied it strictly because we said if it was a business, we wouldn't do it that way, if I recall.
I think the readability issue is a little different on this, and I don't want to extend our meeting over arguing over the finer points of that, but, you know.
I'm using the man's term from the church.
Sure, I
was here.
understand.
That
I
was his
understand.
exact word. They wanted it for the readability.
Sure.
And
And part of
nothing
that
else.
had to do with how close the
They
historic
didn't want to give up
churches.
a parking space, and they wanted readability.
Right. Based on the way
Same
the
thing here,
historic
they wanted
church would
readability.
block the view into it.
That's-
Staff recommended approval of that, if you
I
recall,
understand.
so.
Is there anything else you want to, the American Planning Association State Conference you can bring, or the?
I'm just going to
comp
remind
plan?
the 4 of you that are going to that, you know, that's coming up. And then we have a couple of, I don't have my right hand here today to tell me what else we're going to tell you about the Plan 2035, but I think she's emailed some of you the dates that are coming up in October, and you'll get some more email reminders about the big picture workshop, along with the joint meeting with City Council and the advisory committee. So,
Make sure she's got the new emails because I didn't get my packet emailed, so I don't know if there's somebody new sending.
I didn't either, I don't
I
think.
didn't either.
what?
I didn't
I
get
got
a
mine.
packet either.
We did.
pulled mine
They
off the
changed
city
over our
website.
email server,
kinda what
and
I
there were
did.
some issues that day.
Okay.
So you shouldn't have any problems in the future. But
Speaking on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank John.
Oh, I
and these
appreciate the
guys
opportunity. I
For
really
stepping
do.
up and taking the roles of the chair, vice chair, and secretary, and Greg, thank you again. And
Hope I do a better job.
welcoming our 2 new members.
Experience.
It's not always like this, sometimes it's worse. But,
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
so moved.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. So.
All right, good job.